Okay, so what I want to do now is go back sort of to the beginning, go back through the documents that we've started on and that you have on Classroom, just to kind of show you where you should be now and kind of where we're headed with all of this. All right, so excuse me, I'm going to start with the independent reading analysis one pager. This is the assignment that I gave before spring break, a long, long time ago. All right. You have this, and if you open up, you guys have your own document here that both explains the assignment and it's also for you to do the assignment on. All right. So you go through this, and guys, by the way, I know that a lot of you, when you see directions, especially when you see a whole page or so filled with them, you sort of balk at reading them, or at least reading them carefully. And I encourage you to please take the time to read through this assignment carefully, more than once if necessary, as many times as it takes to get a good grasp of what it's all about, to look at the samples that I provide and to get a good idea of what it's about. Because again, we're not in the classroom together, and it's really hard when I can't sort of be there one-on-one with you or as a class with my projector and all that, pointing out specific features. So I'm asking you to please read through this to get a good idea of what it's all about. All right, so anyway, you'll notice that step one of this is to create a thesis, develop a thesis sentence, okay? That's one sentence, all right? Then after that, you're going to be finding evidence. That's your passages to help back up your thesis, and then your analysis of it, okay? And all of this sort of comes together in something called CQA, or context quote analysis, which basically is just an arrangement, a pattern of sentences that you use in order to write your analysis, all right? And then step four kind of lays out the order of all that. It gives you sort of the sentence structure, what they should look like when you're putting the whole thing together, all right? All right, so you'll notice that the copy I'm showing you here is my sample, all right? I went ahead and filled in a copy, and I used The Lesson by Tony Cade Bambara because it's a short story that we all read together in class. I know that you guys are doing full books and not short stories, but the same diff here, basically, all right? And so I'm using this as an example, and I'd like you guys to look at this closely as well, all right? So you'll notice the first thing you guys need to do that I've got here is you need to fill in a thesis sentence, all right? Some of you have already done that. I've even commented on some and suggested some changes to it to change the focus a little bit, all right? But anyway, so you'll notice mine says, in her short story, The Lesson, Tony Cade Bambara, that's the author, reveals the cruel nature of economic injustice through Sylvia, the story's narrator. All right, so basically the literary element that I'm looking at is character or characterization, namely the character Sylvia. And the message that I'm bringing out to the reader is that Bambara is using that character to reveal the cruel nature of economic injustice. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to prove. That's my thesis, my argument, my claim, whatever you want to call it, for this paper. All right, and then so you scroll down here and you'll notice that over on the context part, basically I include some words about where we are in the story, what's going on as we go through. All right, and then oh, by the way, you want to follow the story in chronological order. All right. So the first quote that I see in your paper should be an earlier part of the story, and your next quote or quotes should be then later in the story. All right. You're sort of following the progression of the story. All right. And then you'll notice that I have the quotes here, and then over here are my thoughts as to how this part of the story, these quotes, go back to prove my thesis. I'm always going back to my thesis. I'm always going back and proving that, okay? I did note in the getting back to the one-pager assignment, sort of the update on this, is that for now, you don't have to include your concluding sentence here. A lot of time, that doesn't really come to you until you get done writing the body of the essay and everything. So if you don't have your concluding sentence here on your chart by now, don't worry about it. Okay, you can just worry about that part when you get to writing your paper. All right, and then notice if you keep scrolling down past the verb bank, remember good verbs, strong verbs help your writing. You'll see that I included also a sample essay based on the lesson and the thesis that I came up with. All right, and I color coded it. You don't need to do that at all. Don't do that. You can just go ahead and write it. I just did it for you to show you how the different sentences fit this formula that I put up here for you. All right. So your first sentence is going to be your thesis sentence. All right. And then your next sentence is going to be your context sentence in green. I have it in green. Your next one then is the one that contains the quote or part of the quote. And then the red ones is my interpretation of how that proves a thesis. All right. Try to move my finger out of the way a little bit here. Notice also that I set it up according to MLA guidelines. All right. So as I set this paper up, I did things. First of all, you want line spacing to be double spaced. All right. You want Times New Roman 12-point font. Okay. And then just notice things up here on the left. You have include your name followed by my name and then the title of the course and the date that you're either writing it or the date that you finish it, whatever. Okay. Then you should try to come up with a sentence or a title that kind of gets to the gist of the whole thing. And then also at the end, you're going to include a works cited about an entry that shows where you got the all the information. So you start with the last name of the author first. You guys are going to, since you're doing books, book titles are in italics rather than quotation marks. Short stories are in quotation marks. Books are italicized. And you'll notice here, this came from remember that lit book that we had. That's where this came from. So that's why the lit book that this short story came from is in italics here. And then you guys will probably be shorter because you'll just have the author's name, the title of the book, and then the publishing company and the year that it was published. For most of you, that's all you'll have on that. All right. Okay. So there's that assignment. Again, please take the time to read it. Look at my samples because I think they'll help you. All right. And then finally, another thing that I wanted to kind of point out to you guys is up here today earlier, I posted a formal writing tips page. And basically that kind of, when you're writing a formal analytical essay, this gives some tips on some things that you should do. The one part that I'd really like you to read through and try to get a grasp of is the tip number 2, avoid dropped quotes. This gives you 3 ways. One is use a colon. Next one is use a tag. Next one is infuse a quotation into your own sentence. All right, these are 3 ways that are sort of the accepted ways of infusing quotes into your work. Okay, so I'd like you to kind of read through that and try to get a grasp of that as well. All right, but the main thing is going back to that original assignment page, getting that chart filled out, and then getting a start on that. I will do my best to, I started making comments on them today. I'll be doing that all week. I'll be going to your work and making comments, suggestions for changes and things like that. So be patient with me. I'll get to you. And again, you can keep sending me emails as well.